right, guys, welcome back to the Finding Full Throttle channel. Today we've got Ren Flickinger with us, Coaches in Cars.
Yep.
Podcast. He has his own podcast. It's going to be a little bit different today. The tables have been turned on me. I'm going to be the one getting asked the questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Ren and let's see how this goes.
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, I think I know the story of how you started, the apparel company and a little bit about your background, but I don't know if that's really been broadcast a ton about how you decided to start Finding Full Throttle, what that looked like. So I kind of want to dig into the history of that.
All right.
So what made you, so you were doing body shop work before. You
Correct.
were in on a body shop.
Yep.
Had a partner deal. You left that and you decided to start an apparel company. So what was the thought process?
So, so I was a partner in Creative Rods and Restoration that did classic muscle car restoration, high-end show car, basically stuff. At some point in that was about 7 years that I was involved. My partner's been doing it all of his life, and he's a 100% owner of that business now. And about probably the last 2 years of that, I started getting into European cars. And it's funny, I handled all the social media for Creative Rods, and I started putting a couple of Porsches of whatever on there. And he's like, "Well, what are we, a European shop now?" I'm like, "Okay, maybe I need to create a new channel." So, the whole process of thinking up a name, which is the hardest part for me, and passing it around to some friends, and just one day Finding Full Throttle came up, and they're like, "Yeah, I like that because it's generic. For me, it can be an airplane, it can be a boat, it can be a motorcycle, a car, whatever." So, if it ends up growing, you can go into different areas with that. So, obviously, it starts with cars, but so I started the Instagram page and that sort of thing. And then after the end of last year, Travis and we worked out a deal where he's 100% owner of the property and so forth, or the company and so forth. Still have a great relationship. And so we started working with Wayne with Vision to Inspire to start doing some videos and this sort of thing. And, I'm like, partway through, I'm spending money doing these videos with no business at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're a 57-year-old man. What are you doing on Instagram? Why are you doing this? And so that went on for probably, we started probably in March, I guess, of 25. And, summer went through, and I'm like, okay, you've got to figure out a business idea before the end of the year and just hang it up. There's no sense in spending money and just doing this for the heck of it, right?
Yeah.
And, a lot of my friends would laugh. It's like, I never saw a guy just started a brand without a business, It's just, So anyway, so I gave myself, last year, I said, well, okay, we'll start doing apparel, T-shirts, stuff like that, graphic tees. Started out with a drop ship company, and within a short period of time, I realized that it's just, the quality wasn't there for me. It was ease. You didn't have to carry any inventory. All you did is get people to buy shirts and collect money, right?
Yeah.
But going back to even like Creative Rods, everything we did was quality, and so I was like, that's me, you put two cars in front of me, I'm gonna pick the most expensive one without even knowing the price. And so anyway, so I'm like, I gotta know, I had a couple people that had issues with their T-shirts, and the drop ship company made it right, but I'm like, how many people didn't call me that didn't like the T-shirt?
Right.
So I'm like, I can't start out this way. So anyway, we started Black Friday of last year, so not quite a year yet, and by December-ish, January, started bringing our own inventory in. You may know Tyler, but he does all of my meta marketing and stuff like that. Helps me on that. Wayne helps me with the video stuff. And so it just kind of went from there, and we're kind of trying to expand into different, doing hats now and doing some other stuff. And then we had, event. We're going to start doing events as well. We've got Gear One helping us with that.
Yeah.
And So we did an event earlier this year that you weren't able to come to. You were out of town, but Throttle and Threads, and we want to continue to do high-end, exclusive, not your ordinary event going forward. So
yeah, and I was playing dad that weekend.
That's right.
My wife was out of town.
Yes.
And I was like, that was like a heartbreaking text message that I had to send of, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it unless you want a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old running around a bunch of cars in your property.
Yeah.
And then I talked to Johnny afterwards, and he was like, when we were, deciding where to do it, we decided to do it at his house, and I just asked him, how good of a relationship do you have with your neighbors? And then I saw the video of the helicopter and everything. I was like, man, that was a sweet event that you guys put together.
My neighbor is a pilot. I didn't realize he was a car guy, but he is a pilot as well as I am. And I get a text. He said, "Hey brother, next time you ought to invite your neighbors." I said, "You're exactly right. I apologize." So anyway, so here we are, trying to make an apparel company. We have some aspirations of where we want that to go down the road, but taking one step at a time, and then delving into doing some static events as well as maybe some wheels in motion type events.
Yep. So it went from Finding Full Throttle. There's kind of three, I would say, like, not necessarily 3 different brands, but 3 different designs.
Yes.
You've got 3 Pedal Society, you've got Finding Full Throttle, and then we've got what you're sporting today, which is the Anti-Racing Racing Club, which I love the pun on that.
Yeah.
So what is the vision of the business long term? If you look a year or 3 years out, what do you want to achieve with it, and how are you looking to give back to the car scene here in Greenville?
Yeah. So we, long term, we would like to. The best example I can give is complement like a Pelote shoe. They have the driving shoes that you can wear casually. You can you wear them downtown out to eat or whatever, or driving or whatever, but maybe have some apparel on the upper body that is more driver specific from a standpoint of, you're driving in the mountains all day and your back gets hot. Maybe it's some material that keeps that moisture flowing or air flowing through and that sort of thing. So, obviously you got to build a bigger brand to get that. So, that's some down the road aspirations. Maybe something to complement a Pelote shoe, for lack of better word, something along that same quality factor, that sort of thing. As far as, and then just doing other event types stuff, like with Throttle and Threads. I didn't want it to be like an event you went to every weekend. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not putting that down at any means. I just wanted it to be like, I had people here that don't go to car shows, but they have nice cars. Yeah. So it was something you didn't see necessarily every weekend or at a car show, and something different. There's also people who came that weren't necessarily car people, so it was all new to them. So we had entertainment, we had hors d'oeuvres, catered, that sort of thing. So it was just kind of something different than what you go to, and again, maybe elevated a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was very experience centered, and everything else is event centered, which there's a huge difference between an event and an experience, right? And I think, Amy does a really great job. You mentioned Gear One earlier, they do a really good job of creating an experience and blending, car into that.
Yeah.
They'll go on a full rally or something like that, and they'll rent out hotels, and there's this experience that, unfolds. And I think that's really missing, specifically in our market. We're close to Charlotte and we're close to Atlanta, and you can get that in those areas. But here, we're like this middle point where there's a lot of really nice stuff here. And I think there's a lot of high-end people and vehicles that want that experience that we just don't. There's a small group of people that are getting that right now.
Experience is the right word. Yeah.
Yep.
That Johnny and them had mentioned that before, but creating an experience that's a little different. We actually had a meeting this morning with Johnny for our event we're going to do in the spring. So, and that's going to be a different experience, different location, and just talking through all that kind of stuff. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So, I met you through Instagram.
Yep.
You know, coincidentally.
Through the Three Pedal Society, which I never checked that channel.
I know.
I said, hey, I got to reserve that name just in case I want it one
Yeah.
day. And then you were messaging me, and like 2 weeks later, I get back to you. I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I don't check this channel,
all
this
good.
page out very often. So
Yeah, I think, you know, and that, you know, that part of your branding really resonates with me because I grew up in a drag racing family. We've been nothing but stick shifts our whole life. Everything I own has been a stick. All the sports cars and muscle cars I've ever owned have been sticks. And there's like this dying culture of that three pedal,
Yeah.
you know, society that's out there. And, you know, that really resonated with me. And when I saw it and I saw that you were local, like, man, I got to message him. And,
Yeah.
you know, and then Amy kind of talked about you and all of this. And it just a perfect storm to where we had the opportunity to meet. We grabbed lunch together. And I'm in that classification you said of like, have good looking cars and don't go to shows with them. I mean,
Right.
I never take them out,
Right. Yeah.
only on my own, right?
Yeah.
Except when we go to lunch, I brought one out. But yeah, I think, you know, the area that we're in, there's just such an opportunity for that. And, you know, Three Pedal Society, like just the branding that you have
Yeah.
resonates with more people than I think you
well,
think.
that particular design has sold more than any of my other designs.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, just recently, you know, light bulb goes off, and I'm trying to think of these new T-shirts. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. I'm like, why don't you just keep doing Three Pedal Society and make it a different color, or do the logo a little different, because people already like it. And you do something new, they may come back and buy the different T-shirt or the hat or whatever it may be from you. So
Yep.
we're focusing a little bit on that now. Not that we won't come out with other designs or whatever, but you know, that one's seems to have grabbed everyone's attention.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really cool is you've really stuck to the brand being around the logo and not putting vehicles on them, or, you know, like you put a 69 Camaro on something, people that like 69 Camaros are going to buy that.
Right.
But not everybody's going to buy that,
Yeah.
right? You know, if you have Three Pedal Society in different ways, or it's written down the side, or it's on the back, the location and how it's written and the color combination is the key, not necessarily what's on it,
Yeah.
right?
I learned that real quick because the two first designs I did was Air Cooled Society and Three Pedal Society. And the Air Cooled Society had a awesome 930 turbo on the back, a great graphic. And then the Three Pedal Society. And the Air Cooled Society did not sell.
Yeah.
And I learned that it's too specific. You know, so, you know, the Three Pedal Society can apply to an old Volkswagen or a new Corvette or, you know, whatever. You know, so it was very broad, which your audience broad versus
Yeah.
narrowing down. So I learned that real quick right off the bat.
Yeah, yeah, and not to mention, you know, a stick is becoming a dying
Yeah.
thing, right? And there's literally lists on the internet of these are the last versions that you'll ever be able to buy with a stick, you know, the Corvette and all of that.
Right.
So there's this cult following of
Yeah.
those things that's out there.
Yeah.
Dude, this was great.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like, it's pretty rare that I get to sit down and talk cars. You know, I do business coaching and I
Yeah.
talk about businesses all the time.
Right.
It's pretty rare that I get an opportunity to sit down and talk about like
Yeah.
the real things that hit my heart
Yeah.
in life. So
To me, it's just a natural, you know, we've talked about doing, I still haven't used the word podcast yet. You know, as you noticed at first, I said the Finding Full Throttle channel, because I'm not sure if I'm ready for that commitment, but this is natural to me because I'm just having a conversation.
yeah,
You know, I may take a few notes, and I called you last week. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I mean, we've met for lunch, but I don't know you that well. Whereas, you know, somebody else, I've not been friends, I can just go off the hit and just ask them a question.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's just like having a conversation with somebody and getting to know somebody.
Yeah.
And that's fun to me. So,
yeah, man. This was great. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see what the next one is.
Yeah.
And where it goes from here.
we'll do it again.
Yeah, man.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.